Happening tomorrow, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt will open this year's legislative session with his State of the State address. The governor is expected to push for tax cuts. Among other bills Fox 23 is watching involve the return of the Ten Commandments monument, not only to the state capitol, but also the requirement that they be displayed in every public school classroom. There are also multiple education reform bills, including another teacher pay raise, and a few bills have been filed dealing with medications that assist with abortion. Governor Kevin Stitt says he isn't afraid to go on another veto spree like we saw last spring if state lawmakers do not deliver some kind of tax cut to Oklahomans. I was the only Green Country reporter to sit down with Stitt before session starts about where he will draw the line. It's a story you'll see only on Fox 23.
If we don't give Oklahomans a tax cut when we have budget surpluses, when are we going to do it?
Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt said it would be unacceptable for there not to be a single tax cut passed by state lawmakers this coming legislative session.
When we have excess revenue, it should be automatic. It's not the government's money. We should strategically invest in certain things, maybe let's say grow government at 3%. But any excess money, we should give it back to the taxpayers.
Stitt called lawmakers into special session a week before regular session started to try to get a tax cut passed so Oklahomans wouldn't have to wait until the next state budget was implemented next summer. The House passed a 1/4 percentage point income tax cut for all, but the Senate said it needed to wait on budget data due out in mid-February before it felt comfortable passing the same.
We've been supportive of tax cuts in the past. We just want to make sure we have a full picture of what Oklahoma's budget is going to look like.
Opponents of tax cuts argue the funding coming in now is linked to bills passed that ended the teacher walkout in 2018. They say that money isn't extra. It's money meant for teachers and investments in education, and those in charge won't invest it properly. They also point to the fact that federal funds for some programs put in place during the pandemic will end in September, and they believe those programs should continue despite the state having to pick up on the tab now.
There's been comments about hoarding tax dollars, and that I agree with. It is not fiscally responsible to hoard tax dollars and then, January of an election year, we're going to cut your taxes. And it won't be meaningful for you, the working family, but it will be for the wealthiest Oklahomans, and it sure will cut and harm our budget.
Stitt says the state is making improvements to education and will continue to do so this coming session. He says a tax cut does not equate to leaving teachers out in the cold. It means Oklahoma is charging taxpayers too much for services that he says are adequately funded and even adjusted for inflation.
I would never suggest that we lower revenue below our expenses. Listen, I've given teachers a wonderful pay raise. I believe you have to pay market. We've invested in roads and bridges. We're number 5 in the country in bridge conditions now. So we don't have a problem investing in certain things. I'm just very cautious about growing the base level of expenses.
Trust Fox 23 News to bring you coverage of the State of the State and this coming legislative session. We will stream the speech live on the Fox 23 News app at noon on Monday, and we'll bring you complete coverage, including the Democratic Party's response on Fox 23 News at 5.